Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming on what maybe is not a, wonderful weather evening, but, welcome to where we happen to live. As I headed out, my wife said, gee, I hope the freezing stuff doesn't come down until maybe 9 o'clock and everybody's to where they're supposed to be. So thank you very much for coming. This is number 4 performance that we will have done the last couple of weeks. We did a church service at the Methodist Church last week. We did at BUCC yesterday. And we did Christopher Heights last Sunday also. So this is number 4, and this will be the best. We very much appreciate seeing a full group of smiley, friendly faces. And those of you who got here early, you didn't hear anything because we were just warming up. So that was, file that away, and we'll do our best on this. So we are the Belchertown Community Bell Choir. We're not attached really to anybody. Back in the day, there was contributions that got the bells, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit more. But then there's 2 or 3 ladies who have been in this group for over 40 years, and they're only 52. Way before my time. But anyways, there's a long tradition of the bells in this community, and I'm very pleased to be able to direct and do the music with these folks. We practice every Monday evening, and whether or not we're all here or not. And so tonight we've got a couple people who aren't usually here playing tonight, and so that's why one of the reasons why we're practicing just a little bit to make sure the left hand and the right hand, know what we're doing. So anyways, the program tonight will be an hour-ish or so, depending on how much talking I do. And you'll rather hear the music rather than me talk, but the way we'll do this tonight, because of the unique way bells happen to work with doing music, that in between each tune, it takes the ringers a few minutes to get the right bells up, get the music up, look and figure out what we're doing for this next piece and so forth. And so that's where you're going to get a little education from me. And there's no test, have to talk it backwards, but try to provide a few, I hope, interesting things regarding bells, and you may learn a little bit about them as we go along. So our first tune this evening is entitled English Christmas. And it's a medley of 2 tunes of Good King Wenceslas and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. And its roots are in traditional English Christmas from the 1700s. So now a little about the education part of this program. If you note, and I think, gee, there's no bad seats in this house, that if you note, what's on everybody's hands? Gloves. And what do you suppose those gloves are for, other than it might be chilly in here? No?
Keep their oil.
Yeah, keep your grubby fingers off of the bells. That's a vernacular for what you were saying. Yeah, I mean, we all know that, you know, stuff's on our hands, and the bell finish will absorb and take that stuff on it. If you overdo it, it'll impact the quality of the sound of the bell. And it helps preserve it. And you know how brass, what does brass do? Tarnish. Yeah, and so we make a point of, each summer usually, we have a tarnishing party. And get the stuff and the rags and clean all the bells. And it's amazing how they look pretty good until you start rubbing them. You're like, ooh, where'd all this goop and gop come from? So that's one of the important things there of how we take care of the bells. Now you notice, and we'll talk about some of the ways the bells sound, but when you saw them going like this with the bell, what do you think they were going clunk, clunk, clunk on? A pad. Yeah, there's a kind of a mattress. I won't lift it up there. But there's a mattress about 3-4 inches thick to absorb that clunk, because you can imagine doing that into a table. It'd be a short-lived bell. So that's another one of trying to take care of the bells and protect it and so forth as we go along. Okay, so how's that education so far? Okay. All right. I don't want to overdo it. If it's getting too deep, please holler. Okay, so the next tune we're going to do, it's called Flight of Angels, and this was written, it's surprising, by George Handel in the late 1600s, surprisingly. And it's been written and rearranged and rearranged and rearranged 99 times over and over and over and over. And it's a tune that may be not real familiar to you at this time of the year, but it was originally done for a Christmas season type of a song. Curiosity, was it familiar to anybody, the two? I didn't think there were a couple. Yeah, it's not a real familiar one, but it's one, and a lot of that, it's a very Christmassy type of a sound too, with the eighth notes that are running like that. Okay, you might wonder, I'm curious, how many of you call yourself a musician, and it's a wide definition, and can read music? A few people, good. Well, the music that generally that we're using, at first glance looks like piano music, where there's a treble clef and a bass clef and there's notes. Well, if you're the pianist or an instrumental person, you play the notes as they go along. Well, with bells, guess what? You only have responsibility for a few notes. So that means you've got to be ready when your note comes, or guess what? The note doesn't happen. And so, and your partner may be sitting there waiting for you to play the C, you're supposed to play the D, the C doesn't play, and you go. And that's the challenge of many people who read music realize, oh, this is a little different than normal. Reading music, though, is pretty handy, though, to do this. So, but that's the way the music looks. And the importance of everybody being together. And generally, people have 4 notes for which you're responsible for, generally. The change, and then how many ringers you have, what does the music call for. So there's some changes of what can occur. But generally there's 4 notes. And so for each tune we play, it's in a different key. And so you may need an E one time, the next time you need an E flat. It makes a little difference of what note's being played if you're in the wrong key. And hopefully we don't do that. But there's some of how it sounds to make that difference of it. And so also, if you notice, this is how you stop the bell. It's called a damp. And so there's times when you want the bell to ring, and you hold it out so the bell rings. And when I do a cutoff, you notice that's when the bell comes up to their shoulder to stop it from ringing. Hopefully that happens. Okay, so that's enough education on this one. We're ready. Okay, so the next tune, you have heard this before, I know you have. Let's see, then we get one, sure. It's the Three Kings. And what's interesting, and I did a little research on this beforehand, it's obviously a very familiar Christmas carol, but in 1857, John Hopkins wrote it for a Christmas pageant in New York City. And it was the first widely popular, known Christmas carol written in the U.S. by an American. I didn't know that until I did a little research. Good old Google, you know. But, listen carefully, and you'll hear what I hope you'll hear, is the hoofs of the camel. Actually, you don't hear hoofs of camels in the desert and the sand, do you? Pretend that you're hearing this camel's hoofs, okay? that didn't work out too well. camels. All right. There were noisy camels on the sand. All right, so another, let's see, a bell. You want to, what a bell actually does, and this is a mid-range bell, and how do you actually ring it? Well, how many of you called the dinner? That ain't the way you do it. It's this type of emotion, and so the bell has a clear sound. You know, it'll keep going. And every once in a while, and some of the music has a long holdout, and the bell will dissipate and you lose it. And so sometimes we'll have hit it again gently, but it's a challenge of doing it softly, softly. It's real easy, you know, to really smack it, but trying to do it soft, it's very difficult. It's wrist, arm, and elbow, the whole routine. But it's a style, and of course, the big bell, like Cindy showed the A bell, there's a wee bit difference. Now, play it, hit that, do that a few times. See? You play a high C, there's a whole range. That's basically a low A and a high C that we arrange. So it's an octave, almost 2 octaves, 1, 2, almost 3 octaves that we're covering here. So it makes a difference. And that's some of the of how the bells are done. And some other sounds that you've heard us do, the ringers do. And by the way, they're not players, they're ringers. This is a very, very unionized type of an activity. You have to keep the terminology straight. A thumb dance, you've seen this done, or heard this done on the first one we did up on the house top that Susie showed. And her thumb is against the back of the bell. So the bell, now take your thumb off. Now put your thumb down. See, that's another way to get a different sound out of the bell. Another one you've heard done when we smack the bell, place the bell into the table of Ruth, and it's called a mart. It's another, the same concept, but it's in the table, and sometimes it's more convenient of what bells you're playing and the music it is, whether you're going with your thumb. The sound is comparable if you notice how it sounded, but sometimes it's easier to do this and then pick up another bell at what you happen to do. Let's see, what else I have here? Okay, we'll do some other than mallets. You heard the camels. The camels are actually, I know this is a surprise, they're actually mallets used on the bell. We have just a hard mallets out? Okay. Do a couple times the way. Yeah, and then we don't have, there's a soft mallet that has more cushion around it that gives a different sound. We're not using that tonight, but it's a more muted sound, and that's a little harsh, but another sound that you can get out of the bells, and you just think it's a regular old bell. Okay, so this next one, I know you've heard also, and I won't use it. Carol of the Bells, and you've heard it in all sorts of different versions. There's words to it, and it can be played by orchestras, chimes, bells, carillons, all sorts of different musical venues. This was written by a Russian composer in the late 1800s, and it's usually performed with bells like this or chimes. You know, the chimes that you're going like this, the vertical ones. So this is Carol of the Bells. understood it, right? Good. On with the education part of the program. Another one you heard on one of the first tunes we did is called A Shake. And, Yvonne, shake for me. Yeah, and it sounds different on upper bell like that. Do it again, please. And Cindy, do it on that low A.
Oh, I don't know how to do it.
And seriously, it's very difficult to do that with a big bell. And we were talking about that a couple of years ago, a couple of us went to down to Hartford University. They had a big conference of bells and so forth. And some guy was a whole lot bigger than me, and that's an A bell, had a C bass bell that's below the clef bell. And the sucker was, it was 2 hands for a guy that was 200 and something pounds to do it. And it would go bong, you could almost feel your innards, move at the same time. So there's another way of how the bell can be done. Another one that you heard at the end of the previous song is called a saw, where we ended it and then went little, and who's got it? So Polly. It's just a plastic like a comb, and it has teeth on it. And what you do is just draw it across the ridge of the bell. Do it again. Yeah. So another different sound that you can make the bells do for you. Another one is called a pluck, and yeah, you think people pay attention? And I rehearsed this all day long. Yeah. Okay, you see what she's doing? Inside the bell, she's just pushing the flipping the clapper down. So it's another sound. I mean, all those have a comparable sound to them when you do it, but it's another way of doing a different sound under a circumstance that, you may be swapping bells in left hand and right hand and so forth. Okay, what else do I need to tell you about bells? I think that's it. Education's over for a moment. Okay, Sue. Oh, that's me. We're going to do a couple more popular numbers that you hear on the radio and so forth. This one will be up on the house top. It's not up on the rooftop. I keep saying rooftop. It's house top. And surprisingly, this was written in 1864. I guess the reindeer were still in business back then. And it's been arranged and rearranged and rearranged. For some of you who are a little more mature than others, who do you think had the most popular recording of this? Very good, Gene Autry. This takes us all back, some of you back a long time. Yeah, in the early 50s. He recorded this, and we're going to do another one that he recorded too, but he did a whole album, or 78 back in the day, of Christmas songs like this, and made it very popular. And he was called the singing cowboy? Yeah. And so it was very popular back in the early 50s. I don't think I remember that. But. Okay. heard the camels before. What'd you hear this time? I'm thinking, we didn't talk before, did we? No. Yeah, and again, it's interesting with just the different dynamic of what the bell can do and the musician and who wrote it and so forth, how you can make the music speak to you a little bit more than just the notes and the actual sound. Another that I hadn't mentioned, that a challenge of doing bells is, if you notice when there's a page turn, we've got people to a book, and so the potential is that one person's got at least a free hand to go like this. Because theoretically, you could be playing, both of you playing two bells, and there's a page turn. It never fails. The arranger puts the page turns in the most terriblest, how's that for a word? Terriblest pace. Oh, it's terrible. And so it's a challenge of who knows what note is coming next, who's going to turn the page, and then you, as a page turner, may not make your note on the next page unless it's with this hand. So you can see it's beyond ambidextrous after a while to make this all work. So if you thought this was simple, maybe not quite so much. So we're going to stay with kind of Christmassy standard stuff, Frosty the Snowman. And now, so here's the lead-in. Who do you think had the most popular recording of Frosty the Snowman?
We're alive.
Gene Autry. Yeah, I tried to provide the answer before and begin with, and didn't work. Yeah, this is another one. I gave up looking on what other ones he did back in the day. I don't know, did he didn't do Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, did he? That was, yeah, Rudolph, he did Rudolph, yeah. So there's a couple, there's homework here if you want to go home and Google what else did Gene Autry sing back in the early 50s. So yeah, this is Frosty the Snowman. And again, in the early 50s, and it's been done by numerous, and I think you're right, Burl Ives did it also, whether it was a popular recording on the radio or not. So, Frosty the Snowman. variety of the thumb damp, the pumping it in the table, and ringing the bell normally. It provides a wide variety of sound that makes it, you know, to the ear much more better. All right. So now we'll do a couple of carols that, you know, and here's a behind-the-scenes story. I think it was last year we did this program and there was some Christmas carols, and I sadly and mistakenly said, if you'd like to sing along with us, feel free. Thank you, but no, okay? Use your best in your mind and say, it sounds great. Mouth the words, tap your toe if you want, but we had a not so good experience recently on that. So I was afraid the folks here would say, Bill, we have any other singers, we're out of this. So think the words to yourself. Okay, the first one is O Come All Ye Faithful that we're going to do, and it's got an interesting story. So is the music. It's a popular Christmas carol, and it has its roots in England, of course. And there's a lot of conjecture of when it was actually written, in the late 1600s, early 1700s. But there's an actual printed version of it by a guy named John Wade from 1751, surprisingly, in a library somewhere in England. It's interesting, and the music and the words and everything are all together. And for this arrangement that we're going to do has a very nice intro to it. So don't get discouraged if you say, what the heck, that doesn't sound like, it's coming. And so the next one we do is Joy to the World. And again, another very popular Christmas carol from England. And this time an English minister, Isaac Watts, wrote and published it in a collection of hymns and spirituals in 1719. You know, it's hard to believe, you know, some of these things have been for over 300 years, and this is the tradition and the historical background of some of these things that we just take for granted because we heard them as a kid, and you keep hearing them to your kids and your grandkids, and everybody keeps hearing them. So, Joy to the World. The education part of this now is, somebody was asking me earlier before we started about the bells. Well, the bells have been part of this particular group for 25 years. Okay, I'm getting to it. It's 25 years. And like anything else, they need to be cared for, taken care of, and so forth. I mentioned earlier that we clean them in the summer after our season is done and put them away. But like anything else, they need maintenance, care, and upkeep, and so forth and so on. And occasionally, when somebody is playing with the bell, and you go, and it doesn't ring, because the clapper somehow didn't move the right way. And so that, and a couple of the straps, these are heavy plastic straps that you're gripping, a couple of them little crack in them, and you know what duct tape is for? And so the manufacturer of these are down in Pennsylvania. And so we are in the route or the traveling part of getting these bells restored, repaired, and what needs to be done. And the cost is $3,000 to $4,000 to do that. We have submitted a grant to the town for a CPA grant, and we have warm, fuzzy feelings that that'll happen. And but there's still an in-kind that we have to meet. And so you may not have noticed this open box in front of me.
I can see it.
Yeah, there's an open bell box here that's empty right now. And if you so feel moved to help us fund, you know, the in-kind part, that we hope we'll get that grant to do, come summertime, the bells will go off on vacation to Pennsylvania and come back in August or so, we hope, and we'll think we have a brand new set of bells. So anyways, after this is done and finished, if you'd like to make a small deposit, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much. Our last number is a medley of different songs. This will take a few minutes. It won't be a quick tune. It includes Jingle Bells, Up on the Housetop Again, Oh Christmas Tree, Jolly Old St. Nicholas, Deck the Halls, and We Wish You a Merry Christmas. And between each tune, there's a few measures of transition between each one. And the arranger doesn't take pity on people who have to play these sometimes. And so sometimes these transitions, these keys, the notes are different, and of course there's a page in the middle of it also. So we hope that we get through all these transitions without you noticing if there's a hiccup. And if there's a hiccup, please don't say anything. All right.